taking three.
Going for the St. Louis now.
Oh no!
Son of a bitch.
You get your two?
Yeah. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thotgor here, of course, and today we are going to take a look at a battle in the Mogami. Now, before we get into this, though, and while it's still loading up, don't forget, today is Friday, so that means tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern, Wargaming will be streaming team battles, and if you happen to meet the Wargaming team in the team battles and beat them, you will get 500 gold, and if you lose, you will get 250 gold. So that's fantastic. I unfortunately will not be able to attend this evening. I do have some family members in town, so I'm going to be hanging out with them this evening, so unfortunately I won't be there, but I do understand that there is going to be a special guest tonight on the stream. I don't know who the special guest is, not sure whatsoever, they didn't tell me at all, but there is going to be a special guest, so be sure to tune in and check it out. Again, that's at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and it's Twitch TV/Wargaming if you don't know how to get to the channel. Anyway, into the battle. So you can see we're on North and in the Mogami. Now I'm playing this battle out of spite. Because, well, not out of spite, I guess, maybe just to prove a point and prove it to myself. Because this battle is a much more recent battle. This was after the changes to the commander abilities, if you recall, that changed, the Mogami's 155s with their advanced firing training. So this is after that. So obviously, I mean, I enjoyed the Mogami with the 203s on her. I didn't have a problem at all. The only reason why I migrated to the 155s was because of ranked battles, right? I started playing the Mogami more competitively, and I just found that in that competitive atmosphere, the 155s were a whole lot better, and they were. But now we're back to the 203s, so a lot of people won't even touch their Mogami or have sold their Mogamis, and the reason they're saying is, well, I no longer have advanced firing training, the 155s aren't as good, the turrets don't turn as fast, all this crap. Just put the 203s on and shut the hell up, alright? This is still a great ship. As you know, I mean, it used to be my favorite Tier 8 cruiser. Now it's really more the Admiral Hipper is my favorite Tier 8 cruiser, but the Mogami is still a really close second. Really close second. I mean, it's not going to take a whole lot to bump the Mogami back up into first position, for me anyway, in my personal likes. But this Mogami is still an excellent ship. Now, because of the 203s, your range is only 15 kilometers. So you do really need to pay attention to what you are doing when you are getting yourself into range to start attacking enemies, right? Because at that 15 kilometer range, you're really close to battleships, you're close to other cruisers, you're close to all sorts of things that can really just focus you down and take you out. Because, again, I mean, this is a long Japanese cruiser, right? You really start noticing the length of the Japanese cruisers. I'd say maybe at Tier 7 in the Miyoko, but definitely by the Mogami, the Ibuki, and the Zao. Very long cruisers. So there's a whole big flat side there for enemies to put shells into, and obviously you can't angle against every enemy all the time, right? Especially when you're facing off against multiple enemies. So you can see what I'm doing here, and we've done it before on the channel in different cruisers, is on this north map. When I'm fighting over here on the west, I am using the island. We can see it here on the starboard side of the ship, that's right in front of us in the center of the screen, right? I'm using this massive island, mountain, whatever you want to call it, as cover from the enemies that are approaching the west side, right? This way, I am limiting the amount of enemies that are actually going to be able to successfully fire in on me, right? Right now, it's basically 2 ships. We see a 3rd ship pop up. It's another cruiser, so there's basically about battleship. So there's about 3 ships that can actually shoot at me versus, the other 3 that are being blocked by the island. All of this was going on, wasn't paying attention at all, obviously, and plowed right into the friendly Fuso. So, sorry, buddy. Didn't mean to do that. Anyway, landed some shots in on the Colorado, managed to set him on fire, right? That was really just to clear the barrels of the high explosive, because I'm going to be focusing in on the Mogami here off in the distance. You can see that armor piercing is loaded up, and we're firing in on the Mogami, so immediately get 1 citadel hit. So this is fantastic. So you can tell that this player, obviously is in a bad situation, but definitely isn't taking into account how close you really have to be. 15 kilometers is pretty close. The range, I mean, you get better range on your Miyoko than you do on the Mogami, which is fairly sad and tragic, I know. I would be quite pleased, and it might be too OP, but if they just increase the range of these Mogami 203s to at least that of the Myoko, I think that would be fantastic. But I can still make 15 kilometers work. Still circling around the island, right? Taking shots off at whatever I can. We can see on the minimap that a lot of the enemies are actually over here on the west. So over on the east, you see we don't have very many enemies. Now, I was stupid there. I came out from cover, I sailed in a straight line while I was busy looking at the minimap, and this battleship got some citadels on me. Half health, gone. That is how quick this can happen. So now I have to really pay attention, right? I can't afford any more little mistakes like that, because it is really going to affect the late game and whether or not I'm even a part of that late game, right? So enemy Colorado just burnt off in the distance, so fantastic, he's gone, we don't need to worry about it. Of the enemies that are over here, we can see another enemy Colorado followed by a cruiser who are both on full health basically, and then we've got the Mogami in the background at about half health. We did see a cruiser there that was further off. We can see him here. There he is, coming out from around the island, very low health as well. And in fact, this guy's about to go down. There's not too much. I think this was an Oba, so there's not too much that Oba can do. And I'm firing high explosive, right? So I was expecting to get shots off the battleship. So there we go, Oba's gone. So we're actually doing quite well over here on the west. If we can just sort of keep this momentum up and maybe pick off a few more ships, because we've only actually killed 2 ships. Sorry buddy, once again not paying attention and ram into an ally because classy like that. God. And but we're doing pretty good, right? If we can just pick off a few more of these enemies, we might then be able to actually push beyond the west side. While all of this is going on, though, and you can see I've already making my way back over here, the enemies who are on the east side of the map, middle of the map, right, they just didn't sit around and continue the push on the west. Obviously, they're branching out, looking to go different places, and we're going to try and just make sure that they don't get into our cap and take it out. So I managed to get the finishing shot on that destroyer way off in the distance there, so that's not too bad at all. I mean, I really didn't do any damage to him, but I'm very glad that the destroyer is gone, obviously, because that was the only destroyer on the enemy team, and now that that thing is gone, we've got a much better chance here of getting some stuff done. So now that, the threat to our base is kind of gone, we do see, they're pinging on the mini-map right now, where the enemies are pushing through, where the sea cap would normally be, so need to keep this in mind. Ideally in this situation too, I can close the distance a little, maybe fire off some torpedoes, but more importantly, maybe take out that Mogami with some armor piercing that I'm loading up right now. Turn, like I'm doing now, to the port, get my shots off on the Mogami, and then just continue along to start taking up positions against the enemies who are approaching into our base. So Mogami comes out, he did take some more damage from another one of my allies, so my shots just need to go in and finish him off, and then that player will be gone and we won't have to worry about this Mogami. There we go, Mogami gone. Fantastic. So we've got armor piercing loaded up again, but I've queued up the high explosive. So once we clear the barrels of the armor piercing at the Nagato there, we'll have some high explosive ready to go. Now I'm turning because I didn't want to obviously ground myself, but I also didn't want to just sail in a straight line right over to where the enemies were, right? I'm trying to make sure that the Nagato that we're firing at isn't going to actually attack me. So he's not attacking me, so okay, we can just continue along, turn, try to avoid the island, right? Don't want to ground ourselves, but also using it as much as possible as cover against the Nagato. So we need to start sizing up the enemies that we're going to be facing off over here on the east side of the map, right? We just have to hold these guys back, basically. If we can kill these guys and take them out, then I can push through the middle and maybe consider start capping the base, the enemy base that is, depending on where my allies are over there on the west. They're doing a great job over there in the west, though, so not a whole lot to criticize about them at this time. You can see the enemy Colorado off in the distance. He's on fire. He's trying to turn into the channel, and he's just outside of my range, so I'm not going to be able to get some good shots on him, especially with this Admiral Hipper coming up, right? So immediately we're going to empty the barrels of the high explosive that I loaded up, figuring I'd be firing against the battleship, and we're going to start engaging this enemy Admiral Hipper, right? So managed to set him on fire, do a bit of damage, not too bad. In the meantime, one of my allies is working over the Colorado, so that is great. The Colorado's on really low health. He continues to burn, so hopefully just a few more shots and that Colorado will be gone. In fact, there he goes. Fantastic. Now we don't have to deal with the Colorado. We can all focus on the Hipper right now. So I'm putting in my armor piercing into the Hipper here, doing a bit of damage. One thing I didn't account for though was the Hipper taking evasive maneuvers against the torpedoes. Basically, what I thought he was going to do is slow down, but he didn't. He just kept going straight, and I get lucky with that shot, right? Normally, what should have or would have happened is I actually would have not led him enough, and the shots would have fell short. Didn't happen this time. Get lucky. Take some returning fire from the Hipper, and now health is really down there. But my team is doing a fantastic job right now. So we took out another enemy ship. The enemies are down to 4 ships remaining. So this is an excellent opportunity for us to now start putting pressure on the enemy base. Right, start working our way up through the middle and start engaging whatever enemies we encounter along the way, and start capping that base. This would be, or rather, this is going to be the ideal situation for us. I mean, there are enemies left remaining, right? We can hunt down, but yeah, I just want victory. So I'm just going to cruise straight towards the enemy base, see what I see along the way, and as things come into range, start firing at them, right? Obviously, we need to be aware, though, of angling. We want to make sure that any incoming fire, that we're mitigating the chance of, the enemies landing citadels on us. Because frankly, one nice citadel hit here from really any of the enemy ships, and I'm going to be gone. It's just all over. So need to keep this in mind and try and play a little safe, a little more careful here. But this is really the value as well of trying to preserve your hit points to the late game. Now, when you're doing that, though, you can't remove yourself from the early game battles. You can't just sit in the back and expect to win, right? We've seen some of my learning from our mistake videos where those sorts of mistakes are made, and and what they get you, right? Just an overall ugly defeat. Luckily, though, in this replay, that's not something we have to worry about. Things are going quite well. So, pushing up through the middle, right, we can see that I already have an ally in the enemy base who's starting to cap the enemy base. So that's fantastic. I've got more allies up here as well. Another allied battleship who's engaging some of the other enemy vessels. Our allied battleship, though, I believe is a Fuso. He's taking the brunt of the enemy assault right now, and is really losing a whole lot of health very quickly. So we're going to try and get ourselves into position here so that we can start not necessarily taking shots for the Colorado, because I don't have, or sorry, for the Fuso, because I don't have the hit points to do that, but maybe try and save him. So you can see more shots were landed on the Fuso. The Fuso is almost gone now. It's not, I mean, it's tragic always to lose a teammate, right? Because that's just extra guns that you could use to kill the enemy quicker. But in our situation, it wasn't that big of a deal. We still have a commanding lead here in points, and the fact that we just have so many more ships remaining than the enemies, really gives us an advantage to actually not have to worry about the loss of the Fuso. And in fact, there goes the Fuso. He was sunk, so that's tragic, but we will persevere. So high explosive is loaded, and we're firing in now on an enemy Colorado. He's on half health, so if we can just set him on fire here, maybe get this guy gone, that would be fantastic. We also did spot an enemy cruiser who was almost dead, and in fact he's now dead. And we caught sight of the enemy aircraft carrier. So if we can get this enemy battleship gone, maybe we can then start focusing on the enemy aircraft carrier. Very hesitant, right, to actually switch from the battleship to the enemy aircraft carrier. That is actually not going to help anyone at this point in time, other than yourself and your own personal stats, I suppose. If you're that concerned about padding up your stats, we really want to get down this get this Colorado gone before we even start looking at that enemy aircraft carrier. I mean, it would be different if we say had more allied ships here in the enemy cap, or even if we had an enemy destroyer with us, right? That destroyer can go off and take out the carrier, not a big deal. But for the cruisers like myself in the base, we really do need to take out the battleship, and the Colorado's gone, in fact, so fantastic. We catch another sight of the enemy aircraft carrier. It's an Independence, so at this point in time, this guy is a little afraid. He knows exactly, or well, he or she knows exactly what is going to happen here. It's just a matter of getting the range in on the Independence, right? Now, obviously, I mean, the Independence goes goes at a decent speed here. I have to lead this target pretty decently, so it's nice to see, at least for you aircraft carrier captains who as you work your way up in the aircraft carriers, they get a lot faster, right? And you can tell, and it makes sense, because as the aircraft carriers were developed more over history, right, it became more and more important to make them as fast as possible so that you can move around the battlefield as efficiently as possible. And then obviously that gave rise to faster cruisers, battleships, and that sort of thing, so who could keep up with the aircraft carriers, and then move those sort of forces around, task forces, if you will. Anyway, firing in on the enemy independence, right? We've got one other enemy player left as well on top of this independence. It doesn't actually look like it's gonna matter at all, or even get a chance to kill that other second ship, because if we can manage to kill off this independence, it should give us just enough points to almost win. And then the fact that we're continue to increase in points at this point in time, because our base is not contested, that should give us the victory right then and there, if we don't cap it out first, right? Because we almost have it capped out at this point in time. So a few last remaining salvos go into the enemy independence, and we can see as well that some of my allies are in range, obviously, right? So they start taking shots off the enemy independence as well. There we go. Enemy independence has gone very close to the 800 point mark, and it looks like we're just going to cap this one out, because why not, right? So we didn't do too bad. We managed the 4 kills, and right, more importantly for me, this was just all about, for my own knowledge and my own sanity, I guess, just knowing that the Mogami is still an amazing cruiser. There's nothing wrong with this cruiser, other than some little tiny nitpicking things about the range, I guess. But to be frank, it just makes the Mogami that much more challenging to play, and I enjoy a challenge. So battle over, we did well, victory, 4 kills there, top of the team overall. Overall damage done wasn't too bad. I think the counter was in the 60,000s maybe at that time. We can see the figures up there anyway, so more importantly, walk away with a number of credits and experience, which is always nice to have. Always nice to have. More things to buy on the horizon, obviously. Anyway, that is today's video. Don't forget to tune in to the Wargaming Twitch channel this evening to see some Wargaming team battles, and don't forget to participate in the team battles if you'd like a chance to win some gold. Obviously, our riddle contest is still running, so thank you everyone who has participated, and keep in mind you have until Monday at midnight Atlantic Standard Time, so it's March 14th, to submit your entries, and all you have to do is take a look at the riddle question from yesterday's video, March 10th video. If you can answer that, just send the answer in an email to me, and then what you win, obviously, is $30 worth of premium goods from the premium shop. So hit the old like button if you did like today's video, hit subscribe if you were not a subscriber, leave any comments you have for me in the video comment section below, and as always, I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day.